I was having a conversation with my cousin today, and he was talking about how even though he felt as though he was having a great day, a great time, he was in a great moment in his life, he still felt as though he was sort of going through a bit of depression. But he felt well, but he still felt depressed. And I said, okay, that's an interesting concept. Please explain that more. I don't know how to wrap my mind around that. And he said, well, he feels as though the only reason why he feels well is because he has been just coping. He has different coping mechanisms that help him feel better about the state in which his life is in. And my response to that was, okay, but we're all coping. And he's like, okay, well, if we're all coping, then it doesn't make any sense for me to continue the conversation, because you can make that argument that, I'm fine. And I said, no, I'm not telling you that to shut you down or to, basically tell you something to the effect of tell your troubles to God kind of thing. I'm just saying we're all in it together, right? I find that I have my coping mechanisms. So why don't you share what it is that you're going through that makes you feel as though you're just coping, and it will make me feel better about myself, right? So then that got him talking. And what he said was, well, I work out, and that's one of my sort of working out makes me feel better about just overall things that are going on in my life. And I'm consistent about working out. I go to the gym every day. However, one thing I'm noticing is that me working out, I also, after working out, will then go and binge a bunch of shitty food. I'll eat cookies, fast food, stuff like that I know I shouldn't be eating. I could eat better. It almost sets back my process and my progress. But the two are correlated. And so my response to that is, well, this could be twofold. Are you eating the food as an excuse to keep going back to the gym? And he said, no, I think I'm just eating the food because I lack discipline. And I was like, you don't lack discipline. You've been going to the gym consistently for 3, 4, 5 years, probably longer than that because he's an athlete. But for the last 5 years, you've been going to the gym consistently. That is discipline. And he was like, that's not discipline. That's just me going to the gym. I was like, I don't go to the gym. I know I need to go to the gym. I barely just started stretching again. I certainly do not work out. The only thing I do consistently is paint and create, right? But that's discipline. I don't have to paint. I don't have to create. But at this point in time, I do it every single day. And if I don't do it, I feel weird. I feel bad. I feel like it's not brushing your teeth or taking a shower for a few days. It's just become a part of me. But to me, the way I see it is discipline. It takes discipline for you to get to the point where you're doing something so consistently that it becomes a part of your nature. So discipline doesn't have to be sustained over time. It just has to be sustained long enough for something to become a habit where it becomes a part of who you are, and that you feel like if you stop doing it, you can no longer, you don't function properly. That to me is how I define discipline. It's not something that you have to kind of stick with. It's just a launching pad, but you have to be disciplined long enough for it to become a habit. And so you can put an overall label over an action or the act of going to the gym as being an act of discipline, an exertion of will. But to me, I feel like it speaks to the starting point, and that helps anybody kind of start anything, right? Knowing that you don't have to maintain a certain level of discipline. You just have to be disciplined long enough for the action that you're trying to start to become habit, right? To become just a part of who you are, to become part of your routine. And I said, now, the issue here is that why do you think that you eating badly is a lack of discipline, that you lack discipline, when you have demonstrated that you don't lack discipline, right? Think about all the other things that you're doing with your life and in your life, going to school and finishing, getting a degree, starting, clothing company, starting to learn the act of trading, right? And day trading. Why do you think that you're not disciplined when you're doing all of these things? Plus, starting a personal training business as well. You clearly have the discipline to get all of these things started, to sort of launch you off to where you're trying to go. And now that these things have become a habit and become a part of who you are, what that tells me is that at your core, you are a disciplined individual, because you can start and maintain and be consistent over time. So these cookies that you're eating and these fast food that you're eating is not a problem. It's not an issue of lack of discipline. it's something else. And what it sounds like to me is you're self-soothing. And at first he was reluctant to accept that information because I think on a certain level, just being Nigerians, like we're socialized just on GP to not admit like any sort of like weakness. So the fact or the idea that he might need to soothe himself was sort of hard to wrap his mind around that. Of course, also him being a male, contributed to something to that as well. And he said, well, I don't think that's what it is. And he said, but I do notice the same pattern in my friend, let's say Dave. Dave works out with him. He's now one of his clients, and Dave drinks. So drinking is, to Dave what cookies is to my cousin, right? It's something that they're doing, and it's a weird cycle. It's like a cyclical loop, right? So Dave drinks, and then he works out. But it's the drinking that's almost like what is pushing him to work out, but it's also his detriment, right? And so I said, well, that's a weird sort of thing. I don't know if you're doing it consciously or is he doing it. If he's doing it consciously, maybe he feels like he needs the motivation to go to the gym. And so that's why he drinks. But I think at the core, ultimately, I'm still going to go back to my original point is that you guys are self-soothing. Now, the thing is that you guys need to understand, or just people in general need to understand, is when you say you're not the body, you really need to sit with what that means and really meditate with what that means. Because I think sometimes we just say things out of our head, but we don't think about the implications of what that means in our day-to-day existence. I had somebody actually ask me that in the last interview I did. I posted it on the YouTube and on Spotify as well. It was Supersly675. And he said, how does all this knowledge affect and impact your day-to-day existence? Knowing that we're in a simulation, knowing that you're not your body. And I like the question. And I want to continue to sort of take these grand ideas and apply them to our day-to-day existence. Knowing that you're not your body, you need to understand that you are a consciousness that is effectively trying to harness, master, tame. I've talked about this on past episodes as well, on taming the body. Imagine that the human race, the species, is a collective consciousness that's fractaled or separated into different fractals and different forms that have now hijacked the Homo sapiens sapiens, right? So you're not the body. You are the consciousness that is hijacking the body. I've actually played with the idea that perhaps we might be, and by we, every time I say we, I'm not talking about the body, I'm talking about the consciousness. So I've played with the idea that we, our consciousness, our minds, our souls, whatever word, whatever label you want to put on it, our consciousness might actually be the invasive species. And we might be a type of intelligence that hijacks form and then uses the bodies in the game, right? In a simulation, in a world, on a planet, to essentially affect that reality. Right. And when you say mind controls everything, well, maybe mind is that consciousness. Mind is that intelligence. And we are that mind. We are that powerful sort of entity. We're fractured into different forms, into different bodies. But our mind is what affects this reality. In fact, reality itself and all the dimensions are all just mind. They're all just realms of the mind. Right. And so could the human race, a human species, the true consciousness aside from form, could we, remember I said when I say we, I'm not talking about the body, I'm talking about the consciousness that controls the body. Could we be a type of intelligence, a type of interdimensional species ourselves? Like I've talked about the internal monologue being an interdimensional species sort of attaching itself to our bodies, but could we be similar in form, right? Non-corporeal, non-physical, because you can't see yourself. You can only see the body that you inhabit. So could the parasite that I have called internal monologue be just one type of species that feeds on mind energy, whereas we are mind? We are what we call intelligence that embodies form. We, our true selves, are non-corporeal. We, our true selves, are non-physical intelligence that occupies form. And what we have done or we're doing in this reality might be maybe some sort of like experiment, or maybe even let's say, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, that's what we're here for, right? So right now, when we're talking about space, we're talking about terraforming the planet, other planets. We talk about terraforming Mars, for example. What I'm arguing here is, what if that's what's happening here? Like, imagine a race of an interdimensional intelligence, a hive mind that operates by going into other dimensions, occupying the bodies of the entities of the species that it finds in and on that planet or on that dimension, and then terraforms it, not by using like physical materials and everything like that, but literally inhabiting the life forms, drawing them to becoming like evolution, right? Driving them to evolving bodies, driving them to terraforming the planet, and then using their bodies to create technology and then develop that planet into a hive mind where it can then send out more information to other dimensions. I'm going to say that again, but in a different way. Imagine that DNA itself contains within it consciousness and information, something we can't quite see, but who you really are, who we really are. Okay? Houses or embodies a non-corporeal entity, which is your consciousness, right? And that DNA is now, it gets seeded through dimensions, through wormholes. And our predecessors, I don't even want to say our predecessors, it's us still consistently, isn't it? It's one entity. That is our collective consciousness. That is what it's one entity, but it fractures itself into different forms in order to create a multitude. This would be so much better. Side note, guys, before I go on a ramble, I've got a Ko-fi account set up. I'm getting something that's going to be similar to Patreon, maybe buy me a coffee or something like that. Got that going up. I've got t-shirt sales up right now on dressfordystopia.com. All of this, if you make a purchase, if you purchase a t-shirt, if you purchase a poster, if you just tip me, we're moving towards, I want to be able to start producing visuals of the things that we're discussing about to make this easier to digest. So if you are interested in helping finance a production of, for example, something similar to Midnight Gospel, where we're taking the podcast and we're now producing it in visual form so that these ideas can be shared easily and we can maybe, sell it to Netflix or something like that. If you are interested in helping in any way, shape, or form, I would really appreciate if you would consider either tipping via Ko-fi. Right now that's set up. You can set up a chat with me and have a conversation. Anything that you buy or contribute, it's not really going to go to me. I don't need the money. It's going to go towards the production of more content. Particularly, I want to move this towards doing something more visual because it's very important that these sort of concepts, these sort of ideas can be presented in a way that is easy to be conceptualized by people who maybe don't have access or aren't really able to do the podcasting or listen or whatever, or maybe they just take in information more in visual form. So if you're interested in helping out in any way, or if you just want to even offer your services if you do film or edit, or somebody who does, let me know, because I want to take this to the next level, right? I want these ideas to reach out as many people as possible, because the one thing that I get this from the Telegram group, I get this from emails, I get this from DMs, is that there's so many people who are reaching out to me and say, thank you for putting these ideas out there. I no longer feel crazy. And that has become my underlining drive. It's how can we reach more people who might be out there who have these thoughts, have these ideas, but they feel alone because they're not seeing these topics being discussed, at greater length, right? So they're just sitting alone with their thoughts. Can we reach those people? Because we're not as alone as we thought. When I first started this podcast and even the TikTok channel, I thought this would be completely unrelatable, because I thought, like you, that I was alone in my thoughts. But the more I keep putting out content, the more I keep having these discussions, the more comments you guys leave, I'm starting to realize that no, we just have been afraid. We're conditioned to hide these ideas from each other. And I want to aggressively push these ideas to the mainstream, not because I think that they're going to appeal to people in the mainstream, but to connect with people who are just like us. So anything that you can do to help would be greatly appreciated. Even if you just hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, because at some point I'm also going to build up the following on YouTube so that we can, when you guys go and watch a video, YouTube is footing the bill, right? You get what I mean? So let's work towards this together, and let's produce something. But I digress. Going back to what I'm talking about. So imagine, I tend to, for those of you who are new, I tend to repeat an idea over and over again, because that is how we learn, okay? And I'm going to rephrase it in different ways until it clicks, right? You are not your body. You're in the body. What could be going on? Well, let's take a broad stroke, a broad approach to everything. I've talked about Michio Kaku's book, Parallel Worlds, and how he said that our universe, this world, our planet, could have been seeded by an alien intelligence who sent DNA through microscopic black holes. He's not the first person to say this. It's just he's the first book that pops into my mind that you can check out and read on your own, right? Now, we are more and more moving to scientists saying that nothing is really solid. Nothing is really tangible. Everything seems to be a projection. There's a book, The Holographic Universe, that talks about this. And then on my video on my YouTube and TikTok and Instagram channels, I posted a video about, is sound conscious? Or is there such thing as an auditory consciousness? Is your internal monologue an auditory consciousness? And on that video, I put links to like physics.org or something like that, and a bunch of other articles basically saying that more and more physicists are saying that solidity itself is an illusion, right? So now imagine this, you have to kind of open your mind a little bit. Imagine the entire multiverse and all of the dimensions existing within a mind, and not mind as in a projection of the brain. Please understand that right now we attribute the mind to the brain, but not all societies considered the brain to be important at all. The Egyptians, for example, didn't really value the brain. So they went through the effort of like embalming everything, except they would take the brain out. So there are other societies, previous civilizations, that have not placed as much reverence or value on the brain as we do. So the mind is this sort of thing. And I've posited in the past that the mind itself could be a type of dimension. We can only use these sort of like words just for the sake of communication, because at the end of the day, even the words themselves can be limiting because they come with their own sort of baggage. But I can only say these words and use these words to communicate with you. But mind, think of the mind itself as a sort of space, a spatial/temporal or space-time dimension that could house many universes and also many dimensions, right? And then think of the entire existence as a projection of mind. I've mentioned the Kabbalion. It's a very short book, but worth listening. And I guess the closest analogy for that could be a dream, right? When you dream, you are entering into another dimension. And by you, I don't mean your physical body. I mean you, the intelligence embodied in what we call consciousness. Okay? You leave this dimension and you travel to other dimensions and you exist in different forms. And in those realities, they can be just as physical as this one. The reason why I say that is because I've had dreams where something happens. You're not supposed to be feeling pain because my body is here, right? My body is in this dimension, in this reality. So why am I feeling pain from an experience that I'm having in another dimension, what we call a quote dream, right? So then you have to understand that it's not the body that is responsible for feeling pain. It's the mind's expectation of pain that produces the sensation of pain. To quote or to reference the holographic universe, again, there are stories in there towards the end where the author talks about, for example, people who reincarnate, right? They will have birthmarks where when they remember their past lives, it's like there'll be a birthmark. For example, this kid had died in a past life. He'd been shot in the head. Sorry, trigger warning there. And so he had a birthmark where the bullet had entered, and then on the opposite side where the bullet had gone out. And it was sort of like, it looked like a bullet wound, very similar. And so the conclusion, the author gave several examples. That's just one I could think of off the top of my head. But the conclusion is that the mind itself carries sort of imprints of its previous lives, of its previous existence, and then it projects it, or it's there's sort of residual imprints that you can see in the body that you're inhabiting now, which tells me that once again there is information. I gotta find this quote I wrote somewhere. I'll find it as I'm kind of talking, but it tells me that there's information. Information is the true core of what our reality is. Information is what drives our reality. Everything is essentially information. I can't find the quote, but I wrote a quote somewhere that was really brilliant, that kind of, pins everything together and pulls it in together. But that's okay. Maybe it'll come to me as I kind of carry on. But this is a mind projection. Everything is a mind projection. This reality itself could be a projection of a hive mind. Everything that we see and interact with that we consider solid could be, and others have posited straight up, is a projection of the mind down to the form that you inhabit. Right. And so my argument here, or my statement to my cousin here, is that the understanding of that your consciousness is here. It's over here. It's on one side. Right. And it is in a body. The body itself has an intelligence. Right. But you are your consciousness. You are carrying in or carrying on previous incarnations, right? But the body itself, the DNA that has been passed on, so there's a duality happening here, right? So there is your consciousness or your intelligence that has carried with it imprints of past incarnations. This is not your first incarnation. So you're carrying it. Think about it like inherited epigenetics, but not of genes, right? I don't even know what the word would be. Let's say like a epi consciousness. I don't know. But think about it as like your soul itself, or your consciousness itself, or your spirit, or your astral body, whatever word you want to use that will get it to click. Who you really are is information, and has contained within it, your soul has contained within it, the information of every incarnation that you have had through time and space. Now, it might be limited while you are presently inhabiting this form, because for whatever reason, you are in this form. I can make the argument that it is to gather information while using this form, right? Because what does information want to do? Well, information wants to spread, but it also wants to grow. It wants to gather information. So if you are information, if your consciousness is an intelligence, right? Well, what do intelligent people like to do? They like to seek out more knowledge in different ways, in different forms. Now, imagine an intelligent species that is a sort of mind projector, right? And it goes to dimensions and turns whole worlds into simulations. I've talked about this in past episodes, you got to really think deeper than what we're shown on TV. Imagine an interdimensional species or an alien species who has the ability to, quote, terraform, but not even on a physical level. Because when you say things like terraform, you're thinking more on, okay, what would the human body, a Homo sapien on its own, what we've come to understand a Homo sapien as, which is an evolved, quote, an evolved monkey, right? What would, if I was going to go to Mars as a species, we would terraform. How would we terraform Mars? Well, we would work on a physical level, right? Like we would, figure out a way to get water there and seeds and stuff like that, but it would be on a physical level. Now, if you are an intelligent species, a hive mind that is connected not just through space, but also time to other versions of itself in other dimensions, it wouldn't just stop at, okay, I'm going to terraform a planet. I'm going to terraform Earth. I've even said in the past that the story of Genesis, for example, reads as an intelligence, and I've argued more recently, an auditory consciousness terraforming Earth. Because first it says, let there be light, but it speaks first. It said, let there be light. So it manifests light. And then it says that there was waters there. Once again, I'm not Christian. I'm just using the story as an analogy. But it said that there was waters there. And then from there, it starts using the earth, right, to mix water and land or whatever. To me, it's, if I wrote this book 2,000 years ago, I would explain it as using land. But to me, looking back and reading the text, but with our knowledge at this moment in time, it reads more of a manipulation of matter, right? It's manipulating matter on a subatomic particle, right? Think about it, like, what is the human body made up? It's elements, right? H2O, oxygen, I forget what are the calcium, this, that, and the other. That's what's being described there to me in the biblical story of Genesis. Is somebody on a subatomic level, on a quantum level, manipulating matter on a chemical level in order to create different species. And then the part where essentially energy, information gets transferred from an intelligence, an auditory consciousness into a physical form when the breath is blown into the body of Adam and Eve. Well, to me, that tells me what I think is happening on this planet. But that's just a very simple level. What I think is happening on this planet is that a species, a collective consciousness, an interdimensional intelligence came to this planet and on a quantum level manipulated matter, organic matter, along with DNA from another dimension brought here in order to create life that we see now on this planet. That's how an advanced species would terraform another planet, but it would do it on a subatomic level where it's not just focusing on a physical level like we would do. Because if we were going to go to Mars right now, we wouldn't be able to create like water. We would have to bring water. But a sufficiently advanced enough civilization would absolutely be able to, on a quantum level, move chemical structures around to create water, to create oxygen, to create a closed system. That would be, if we had the technological capabilities to do that, that would be the easiest thing to do. You create a closed system on Mars, right? Manifest or, use chemistry and chemistry with physics to create water, to create mist, and basically do the exact same thing that's happening on this planet right now, but it would have to be a closed system. And to tickle the fancy of flat earthers who might be listening, right? That's what is that called? The dome or whatever it is that people talk about that's like above the earth or whatever. It causes it to be a closed system where everything circulates. But that to me is telling me that we don't have the technology to do that, but it's not something that's improbable or impossible. It's just improbable for us right now due to our limitation. But it wouldn't be improbable for something that was sufficiently advanced. And we're just not at that level yet of that sufficient level of advancement. But I'm not saying that we're not that far off. We might be 50 years away from being able to literally, I mean, we've seen it displayed in our science fiction, right? So to me, in my opinion, science fiction is just showing us the things that we are capable of. If everything is a projection of the mind, then if your mind can project that as a probability through fiction, it's only a matter of time before fiction will become reality, right? It's the artists that set the blueprint for the rest of society to follow. Artists, their function is to remind us of what we are capable of. And then the rest of us follow. Think like insects, right? You've got the worker bees, they have their function. You've got the queen, she has her function. Everybody's got their function, right? So it's the same thing. You've got the artists, their job through art is to show us what we are capable of, to set the blueprint, and then the rest of us work together as a hive mind. Whether or not we're aware of what's going on, I think that's more of just a consequence of being limited to form as we work to terraform this planet, this plane, this dimension. I don't think this is new. I think that this is something that consistently happens through all the dimensions, and we're just in this section of space doing what we've always done, which is just build the mound towards a particular end, the way ants build a mound towards a particular end, and then boom, we continue the process. And I think that, I guess to tie it all together, to take a step back, I think that you have to be mindful of the fact that you in a form. See, I need to stop doing this because I'll record a whole podcast and then not post it. And I realized that a lot of the things that I've been referencing on this episode, I had recorded in an episode that I never published, and I need to stop doing that. But I'm going to talk about it now. If I was going to go to a planet, like say our scientists figure out open up a black hole. No, not a black hole, a wormhole that's traversable, right? And we need to now go through the black hole to see what's in there. I'm not going to send my actual physical body because that would be stupid, right? Because you don't know what's on the other end of the black hole. You don't know what bacteria is there. You don't know what any of that. And more specifically, not black hole, wormhole. And more specifically, if the wormhole opens up to a different dimension, it could be a different spatial dimension, right? Where I might be this size, I might be 6 feet here in this dimension, but in another spatial dimension, I could only maybe exist as a microscopic, organism. So imagine a future where we are capable of doing that. Well, what would we do? We would just send information, because a technology that's capable of traversing wormholes, a society with the technology capable of traversing wormholes would also be capable of essentially sending out drones, microscopic drones. We are already working to that right now. We call it nanotechnology, but that's where we're going. And I've also seen videos, just bacteria. I've seen this on TikTok where movies are stored in bacteria. So you just have to extrapolate. If we continue down this trajectory, what will we be capable of in 100 years or 1,000 years? What have our predecessors, assuming that 200,000 years of human civilization, at least as humans? Let me rephrase this to stay on topic as to what I've been saying, how I've been saying it. I have to slow down because my brain's going too fast. 200,000 years, intelligence has existed only in human form. Only in human form on this planet. That does not mean that this planet, in the 4.6 billion years that it has existed and sustained life, that does not mean that Homo sapiens sapien has only existed. That does not mean that intelligence has only existed on this planet as Homo sapiens sapien. I'll say that again. This planet, this plane, this dimension, whatever you want to call it, has theoretically existed for 4.6 years. Intelligence has only existed as Homo sapiens sapien for 200,000 years. But you are not Homo sapiens sapien. You are intelligence existing as Homo sapiens sapien. You are intelligence that has chosen to embody and learn and gather information in the physical form of Homo sapiens sapien, only for 200,000 years. But at any point in time, even if the human civilization gets wiped, we would have learned something. Intelligence doesn't get wiped, right? We would just, as consciousness, repeat the whole cycle again, but perhaps this time, maybe not with Homo sapiens sapiens, or maybe not with an ape descendant, maybe instead with insects. And then this planet would house a civilization for 200,000 or 500,000 years of intelligent insects, which is not to say that this hasn't happened before, but intelligence and being embodied in, for example, reptilian form, which is where I think our artists conceptualize the idea of reptilians. On some level, are we communicating to ourselves this residual memory of intelligence, who we are, these epigenetic, but of course, applying to intelligence, not to physical form, not to genes holding information, but intelligence holding information, intelligence being your consciousness holding information, right? Could they have existed? Could we have existed in the past as reptilians? What we call the age of the dinosaurs. All we do is find bones, but we don't really know what happened 3 billion years ago, 2 billion years ago. What if this plane, this dimension is just a stage? It's just a dimension in which intelligence, you could interchange dimension with simulation. What if this plane is just a simulation in which intelligence inhabits various life forms and then creates societies to learn something and then wipes us and starts over, but then as a different form? So then your past lives could very well be not just as a humanoid. You could have had a past life as an insectoid or a past life as a reptilian, as an intelligence, just in different form. You are intelligence in different form. We are collective consciousness, at our core, a hive mind. It is the intelligence, it is the mind that matters, not this projection, not the simulation. Because once again, a hive mind would be intelligent enough to manipulate, to turn whole worlds into simulations, to manipulate matter on a subatomic level, on a quantum level, which is what we see happening right now. So that's what you are. Now, what does that have to do with my cousin and eating cookies? So I'll drive it back, right? We're going to apply it. So what I was telling him is this, that you have a Homo sapiens sapien, right? And that's you as an intelligence are presently embodying the physical form of a Homo sapiens sapien in order to learn whatever it is you need to learn as a Homo sapiens sapien. That's fine. That is the function that you're performing. But understand that part of the function is it's like an animal, right? Animals have no concept, for the most part, of long-term consequences, right? So it's like when you're training a dog, for example, if the dog pees, and you don't see it peeing to directly give it a consequence between the act of peeing on, in your house and getting in trouble, it's not going to know that those two actions together work, right? Okay, if I pee in the house, I'm going to get in trouble. So you have to immediately stop the behavior that you catch him doing so that he knows or she knows not to do that action again. That is how we can learn how the human body works by observing animals. But you have to make that observation with the understanding that you are the intelligence that is observing the animal. You are not the animal. You are the intelligence that is existing as the animal. And your job is to observe the animal and figure out how to better navigate the animal so that we can move to a collective goal, which is, I'm not even sure quite what it is. I guess achieving a certain level of technological advancement to allow for the propagation of the mind into other dimensions is what I had to guess. You can loop that last sentence over and over again. But in the meantime, excuse the arrogance. I hope I don't sound arrogant in this episode. I just don't have time for the pleasantries at the moment because this is something I want to talk about. And I am guilty of not just saying stuff because I am too concerned with how the information is going to be taken. But I'm trying to just say the information, so I may sound arrogant, and that's not my intent. It's certainly not arrogance. It's just me sharing information. So forgive me in advance. So what I'm arguing here is that you are not the body, which I've said over and over again, right? You are the intelligence that has hijacked the body. I don't even like the term hijack. I wish I could redo this. That's the problem with podcasts. Is like once you say it, you can't like edit it out, but it is what it is. So just delete what I just said. You're not hijacking the body. Something has hijacked the body. I think that's what the internal monologue is, but that's a whole different thing. Maybe that might be part of the whole game. You've got to conquer that. But you are inhabiting the body. You are an intelligence that has taken the form of Homo sapiens sapien, and your job as a fractal, right, as a fractal of the collective consciousness, is to learn it, train it, understand how it works, and you keep coming back until you've mastered it. So it's not even karma. That's the problem. I think karma is a misunderstanding. I think people think that karma is you're getting paid, you're getting punished for doing something bad. Well, morality is weird, right? Then who determines what is something bad? I think it's no, if you're here and it's to master the Homo sapiens sapien, right? To kind of shake off of its intelligence and the influence of its own sort of mind, its own sort of instincts, its own sort of like function, because it has its own, your body has its own mind. Your body has its own brain, because it's all intelligence, remember, right? But you are, let's just say, a higher consciousness that's existing within a lower consciousness. And the purpose here is to master it the way you learn to master a horse, right? To ride a horse. It's the same sort of thing, but you're doing it in form. But most of us are still operating as though we are form, but that's part of the process. And I think that you keep coming back over and over again until you learn very quickly, okay, I'm not the body, I'm not the horse, now I've got to learn to control it. So to tie it back to my cousin and self-soothing, what I basically said to him was that you're pushing your body really hard, right? You're working really hard. We live in a society that pushes you to collectively work hard, right? But the problem is that you can't go that hard without taking a rest, okay? Right. And so the body needs to soothe. And a lot of people soothe their bodies. I don't even think they're doing it on purpose, because understand that the body itself, remember I said it has its own intelligence, just like your dog has its own intelligence, just like the horse has its own intelligence. But as its trainer, your job is to work with the intelligence and know how it works. You have to understand it. So you're trying to be almost like a human whisperer in a way, a Homo sapien whisperer. Okay, so here's a problem. When you go to eat the cookies, your body, or when you're craving a cookie or alcohol, your body is basically telling you, I need comfort. I'm stressed. I need to rest. I need to be taken care of. Okay, but we happen to live in a toxic society right now that pushes us. It says you've got to work hard. No days off, right? All this bullshit. So you're pushing. Your body knows, because your body's like the dog. It knows, okay, cookies make me feel good. They taste good. So I've been telling this guy, right, that I need to be taken care of. I need to rest, right? But every time your body communicates, or my cousin, let's use my cousin as an example. Every time my cousin's body tells him we need rest, he thinks, no, I need discipline at that moment. And so he pushes past his body's request for rest and for care And for nurturing, he just pushes past that and he calls that discipline. And I'm like, that's not discipline. That's, you're running your body down. It's a machine. So it's almost like saying like you're driving a car, right? You're driving a race car and all these lights are coming on and you're not listening to those lights, right? You're just going, okay, I just need to push harder. But you know that if you push harder, stuff's going to start breaking down. So what you need to understand is when your body first tells you, hey, I need rest, and you don't rest, right? It's going to allow you to continue to run until it realizes that, okay, you don't know what you're doing and I can't trust you. So it's going to overthrow your domination. It's going to overthrow you as the rider because it's going to see that you're not a sufficient master of it. And then it's going to override your control over it. And that's what I think happens in our society at large. Now, here's a good analogy of that. It's like a horse, right? If you get on a horse and you don't know what you're doing, you might be able to ride it for a little bit, but eventually it's going to say, get the fuck off me, and it's going to throw you off. It's the same thing that's happening. It's also the same thing that happens, like, for example, when you need to sleep. If your body's like, I'm tired, it starts giving you the cues, right? You start kind of falling off. You start to slow down, right? So your body, once again, it has its own intelligence. It is intelligent, and it's telling you, hey, we need rest. But because we live in a society, right, that is driving us towards this goal, but it's doing it in an unbalanced and imbalanced and unhealthy way, you just keep pushing. So eventually, your body goes, okay, fuck this. And then it just, boom, you just shut down. Like it doesn't care if you're driving. It doesn't care if you're in the car. It just shuts down. That's dangerous, right? But your body is like the dog. It's not aware of, okay, there's a consequence between driving 70 miles per hour on the highway and falling asleep. It just knows immediate consequences, if I sleep right now, if I shut down right now, I will finally be able to rest. You as the controller, you as the intelligence that has created this world where machines go 80 miles per hour, you as the intelligence, you as the consciousness knows you should not be driving and falling asleep going 80 miles per hour. But your body didn't develop this technology. Your body is a dog. It doesn't know. Even when you're sitting in a car, it can't even conceptualize the idea of going 80 miles per hour. It just knows, I'm tired. This guy doesn't want me to go to sleep. I'm just going to shut down right now. Okay? So you need to be mindful of that as you're training the body, that you need to be a sufficient enough master. You need to be a good master to your body, which means knowing when to pay attention to the cues that it is tired, it is hungry, the nutrients that it needs, and also it needs care. You beating yourself up when your body is tired and you're telling yourself dangerous shit like no days off is just, you're going to set yourself back. I've read the quote that says, if you don't know when to rest, your body will make you rest. It will make you rest by making you fall asleep, and it will force you to sleep. On some level, you need to acknowledge what that means is that you are dealing with essentially a body that has its own intelligence. It's the same thing with this planet or this plane or this dimension. It has its own intelligence. So you have to be respectful of that. So if we are, in a sense, a collective consciousness that goes into dimensions and hijacks not only terraforms and hijacks not only planets, but also forms or creates forms out of the information contained within that dimension, which I have talked about. I know I've talked about this in past episodes. I know you guys have heard me talk about this, but just not applicable to this level, right? Then you need to understand that there are certain rules that you are dealing with an intelligence. You can't say, I am my body, right? Without understanding that you're not. You also can't say, I am not my body without understanding that then you are in a body, and then you have to respect the intelligence of the body. The body has its own intelligence. Right? You don't control your heart rate. Try to hold your breath. See how long that lasts. Like, you can consciously apply your intelligence to over time being able to hold your breath for a long time. But your body will override your command of holding the breath if it's detrimental to it. So you need to understand that. You also need to understand how your body works. Understand that it just seeks immediate sustenance, immediate gratification, because it's not aware of the long-term consequences of it. That's why of certain actions, right? That's why you have people who are, for example, sex addicts, right? If you push your body to a point where you're not getting the emotional care that you need, for a lot of men in our society, they live in a society where they're basically socialized to not cater to their emotional needs, or to just seek emotional connection through physical interaction. So they're driven to pursue sex while they are neglecting the body's need for emotional bond. Because these Homo sapiens are social creatures. Now you're trying to hijack that social sort of genetic adaptation over time, right? Where it needs social interaction. It needs cuddles. It needs closeness. It needs somebody to touch their hair and scratch their back the way we watch chimpanzees do, right? If you bypass all of that and just go straight to sex, right, because you need that emotional connection, it's your body is ignoring what you should be conscious of. It's overriding your awareness of the consequences of that action, which tends to be STDs and babies, right? Amongst other things. Also emotional trauma, because you're laying with somebody who maybe is in the same boat as you, and they're dealing with their stuff, and you're going in and you're taking from them, right? So you're dealing with two people. You have now two people who have needs, but now they've gone unconscious. Their body is taking over, and it only wants to meet that need at that moment. This feels good. I'm going to drive. I'm going to go and do it, without being aware of the consequences that have been imposed in our society, right? STDs, right? Monkeys, animals, dogs, they don't care about STDs, but we live in a society that does. But when your body takes over and it's just going out to seek a need, it needs to soothe itself because it's stressed out or whatever, because it's not adequately getting its needs met, right? You're going to be left dealing with the consequences of it, but understand that the society itself is a construct of that intelligence. Your body is not aware of the societal rules that this intelligence has created on this plane and this dimension. So it's just going to have you go and do what it needs to do. You need to be mindful of that. So people who end up addicted to sex it's not even an addiction. It's just your body needs to self-soothe. And it's not immediately aware of the correlation between this particular action and then the negative consequences of it. Because when it engages in that behavior, there's no direct negative consequence. It's like sticking your hand in fire, right? For those of you who've been burned before, your body will not allow you to stick your hand in fire. Just like your body cannot bite itself. Like you can bite down and break a bone while you're chewing, like, you're eating something, or I bent things with my teeth, but I can't bite past a certain point of my own finger. It just won't allow me. Even if I have a high threshold for pain, it just won't allow you to do something to that point, because it can feel the immediate consequence of you biting down. There's pain. There's pain there. So your body knows to avoid immediate consequences. But if there's no immediate consequence to a particular action, then it's going to engage. It's like sex and pregnancy. There was a time when people didn't realize that sex was correlated to pregnancy, because you didn't immediately see the effects of having sex until months later. So you need to understand the psyche of how that body, the body that you're existing in right now, works. Imagine you are an intelligence living in a horse. You need to understand the intelligence of the horse, the psyche of the horse, the psychology of the horse. On the opposite end, you can now use that to train your body once you understand that. So if you go, okay, I'm only eating these cookies because one, I need to self-soothe. My body's telling me in one way, hey, we're not okay. We're feeling some type of way. Take care of your body's needs, rest. So one thing for me that I've been doing now is I've been going and getting massages. Because I don't know, you guys have been paying attention. It's always been one thing after another going on. I'm doing too much. So now I'm taking care of myself. I go and get a massage. I go get my nails done. I stretch now. Once I reach a certain point where I'm like, all right, we're tired. We're going to sleep. We're not doing this shit where we're just working hard. But no, I've calmed. I've taken all that back. Another thing I've been doing to self-soothe is to remind myself that success takes time. The reason why I'm going hard is because there's so much I want to do, right? I've explained to you guys, for example, I really do want to get to a point where I can produce a show like Rick and Morty, produce a show like Midnight Library just to start, but end up producing a show even on the level of like Westworld, where we're hitting bigger audiences and we're getting people to think. That's something that I'm passionate about. I'm not driven by making money. So that's when I say I don't need money, I want you guys to also have that same mindset. You don't need money. Don't let that be your motivation. You don't need money. You might want food. You might want the things that money can buy. But even any spiritual leader that talks to their followers about manifestation, they tell you, you don't want to focus on money. You don't need money. The game provides. Because the greater intelligence that controls the game will make sure that in order for you to reach your goal, you are provided for. You don't need money. You need to reach your goals. And that's what you need to be focused on. But with the understanding that you reaching your goals is going to take time. So listing all the things that I do, got the podcasts, right? I've got Instagram. I've got TikTok that I post for. I've got YouTube that I post for and I'm writing content for, right? I've got the t-shirt store. We're now doing the Patreon thing or whatever it is going to end up being, right? You're getting everything set up. I'm also painting full time, right? And while also writing, I'm working on a book as well. So I'm doing all of that. And then somehow I'm feeling like I'm not doing as much because I am not getting the monetary results of all of these efforts right now. So I needed to take a step back and tell myself, you don't need the money. You need to reach your goals. And in order for you to reach your goals, you need to give yourself time. So here's another applicable thought. What all of these esoteric discussions apply to our day-to-day existence. Here we go. If you are a small business owner, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a social media person, if you're trying to get started, please don't fall in the trap of what we are expected to do. If you're starting a business, if you're starting a social media presence and you're like upset because you haven't blown up in the first month, I need you to listen to this. Listen to what I have to say right now. Amazon was not profitable for 14 years. Did not make money. Uber, from the last time I checked, is still not profitable. And they've been around for like ever at this point now, right? A lot of these companies that we're trying to reach, whose companies we're trying to, quote, overnight success, that we're trying to match their success levels, what they do is they get investors first, and a lot of their CEOs coast and live off of the money that the investors, venture capitalists, are paying them. That is how they make a living. It's not just from venture capitalists. They have members of their family who also will invest in the company. That's how they make a living. So if you are starting a business and you don't have any venture capitalists supporting you, first of all, don't quit your job. You're going to have to be the person investing in yourself. You're going to have to be a venture capitalist for yourself until you get your business to the place where you are self-sustainable, where the business is self-sustainable. And that's going to take time. If Bezos expected Amazon to be where it is now, after a year, Amazon wouldn't exist. After 10 years, Amazon wouldn't exist. You made me say, like, maybe after 7 to 10 years, he started to see it coming to fruition. But stop trying to be an overnight success, because that's not a thing. 1. 2, stop expecting that your whatever business endeavor you're about to engage in is going to make money overnight. What you're doing right now is you're literally just laying the foundation, but that foundation is going to take time. It's just the base work. You're going to have to, it's like even building a house. You got to lay stuff out. You got to draw out the plans. You got to hire an architect to see, okay, this is where I want things to go. And then you're going to have to give yourself time. You can't put in a year of building a house or 6 months into building a house and then try to sell it. It's not finished. You're working towards something. You got to keep that same energy. Now, a lot of us feel like, okay, I've started this business, I'm not making money. And we are accepting the added pressure of people. So when people ask you, what do you do for a living? That question itself is loaded. It's like when they ask you, how old are you, right? It's a loaded question. It's another way that we sort of pull each other down without realizing it. It's like a neuro-linguistic programming. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to feel tempted to start making money so that you can respond adequately in that way. But please understand that as an entrepreneur, that question does not apply to you in the same way. You don't have a job, you're building a business. So you're not going to make a living off off your first go. It's not a job. A job, if you go and you get a job, you know you're going to get paid after 2 weeks. But as a result of you getting a job, you're also giving up your own freedom and you developing your own thing. So that is the trade-off. If you want immediate rewards for something that you're doing right now, then go get a regular job. But if you're working towards becoming your own boss, please understand that payoff is not going to come in 2 weeks. Stop it. It's the same energy. This is what I told my cousin. It's the same energy of like going to school. When you go to university, let's say you're going to go study to be a doctor, you're not going to be making money as a doctor for years. You're laying the foundational work, the groundwork towards being a doctor. And we know that that's going to take time. You're not going to go to get a degree. I'm going to get a degree in, in biology. Nobody's expecting you to be a biologist and earn money as a biologist after a year of going to school. They don't even show you, like a lot of liberal arts universities, for example, you don't even start your credits or start your classes in your own major until after 2 years. So if you're a business owner, if you're a painter, if you're a social media, if you're trying to do something, understand that right now you have to take everything you're doing at the first 2, 3, 4 years of a business. And if you're not willing to put in that kind of time, then just quit. Like you're just don't waste your time. You need to understand that this is going to take time. So if you're willing to give private institutions or public institutions of higher earning time for you for them to get you to a place where you can eventually start earning money, then give yourself keep that energy for yourself. Because right now, if you're starting a business, you're basically going to school to learn to own a business. If you're an artist, you're basically going to school and learning on the fly how to start a business as an artist. You're just learning as you go. So don't expect to be profitable the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, the fifth year even. Just keep at it, keep trying. You got to keep that same energy. Don't let what's going on social media mess you up. All these people who seemingly pop out of nowhere and you think that they're successful and then you quit after two months or 2 weeks because things aren't going the way you want them to go. It's not going to happen that fast. That's why people quit, is because it's not happening. But then if that was the case, when you went to school to get your degree, if you didn't get your degree after 2 months, do you drop out? No, most people who finish university understand it's going to take them about 4 to 5 years to just even get the paper, not even get the job where they even start to earn money. So I want you to take that same energy and apply it to anything that you're doing as a business owner, which is why I say, unless you have savings or whatever, which I say, don't quit your job yet. Understand that you need to be able to finance yourself because you're not putting that kind of pressure on yourself to now make money. You don't need to make money. You need to reach your goals. You don't need to make money. You don't need the money. You need to reach your goals. You don't need the money from what you're doing right now. You're setting the foundation. If you need money, go get a job. while you continue to build a foundation towards having your business. And then the moment your business becomes profitable, then you can quit your job, right? It's like handing on the baton. Obviously, you have bills to pay, but don't put yourself in a situation where you're stressing yourself out because you don't have the money, because now you're putting too much pressure on your business to perform. It hasn't had time to even get to that level. You need to be willing, and whatever it is you're doing. Yes, they have people who are on TikTok who, because of the pandemic, blew up overnight. But that was because TikTok was literally blowing people up overnight, pushing their stuff out, right? They got lucky. But there's billions of people on this planet, millions of people that are using these apps. Those people, the 4, 5, 10, 20, 100 people that we see, those are the exceptions. You need to get in where you fit in. Success takes time. In the meantime, don't overpush your body. Don't burn out. It's okay for you to rest. If you find yourself just laying down, like not wanting to do anything, that is the intelligence of your body trying to communicate to you who's supposed to be in charge. Okay, like I know you're supposed to be in charge. You get what I mean? But like, you're fucking up. You know what I mean? So get it together. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I just checked my phone. The Queen's dead. Long live the Queen. I don't care. Everybody's texting me like I care. Why do I care? She's 99 years old. Anyway, good for her, I guess. She gets to come back as... See, this is why you don't check your shit while you're recording messages. So back to what I'm saying. I mean, no, you know what? Let me finish my thought so I don't sound insensitive. Here's my thought process, because my cousin actually said this to me before I recorded live. And he said this to me. He said, the Queen is dying. And I said, first of all, I feel like she died a long time ago and they've just been managing our expectations. But if I live to be 99 years old and I was a whole queen, I'm going to slap people who mourn me. She won. That's gold. She got to level 99. Like, what the fuck? Good for her. Good for her. You know, like she did well, and long live her reign and everything, whatever the fuck. I don't know what you're supposed to say, but good for her. You know, I hope I live. I don't want to look like her at 99, but I hope I live that long and I've been like as dominant and as impactful positively. I mean, she's done some, sort of things, but I want to have a positive impact on the world. Let me live that long and have a positive impact on this world. You better not fucking mourn me. The body is dead. The vehicle is dead. I'm still here. It's just, I'm now an intelligence with more information, everything that I've learned while existing as the form that's Joe. So speaking of managing people's expectations, understand that when you're starting a business of your own or some kind of entrepreneur or whatever it is that you're trying to do, manage other people's expectations. So when a person asks you, what do you do for a living? Say, right now, I do this, that, and the other. That's fine. Now, if they ask you, are you making money off of it? First of all, that's none of their goddamn business. Like, you're not asking them how much money that they're making at work. You know what I mean? So you don't have to respond. You could just say like, no, that's rude. Or if you want to protect your egos, like, Amazon was not profitable for 14 years. When you're building a business, you should not teach them a lesson. You should not expect to be profitable. Uber is still not profitable, right? If you want to go that route or whatever, but you need to keep that energy and manage other people's expectations. Some of the most successful people that I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with are very good they're patient as fuck. They are disciplined, which implies consistent, but they are also patient. And they go out of the way to let people know this is not going to happen overnight. So when I design a t-shirt and I put it out there, I'm not expecting people to go and buy it overnight, but it's there. And I'm just going to keep talking about it, driving people, talking about it. Eventually, I'm going to get to where I'm going. But I also keep that same energy when I look at like other brands. They didn't get to where they're going today. Same thing with whatever goal you have, understand that whoever it is that is your quote motivation, they didn't get to where they're going in a month, in a week, in a year even. It took them time. All you're doing is seeing the results of it. But be prepared to take the same level of time. That's all I'm saying. It takes time. Maybe you hit a one-off where it's a home run and you just all of a sudden your shit takes off. Good for you, but that's not normative. That's almost not a good thing because now you don't have time to learn what works and doesn't work. That was just a fluke. And sometimes when people kind of blow up like that, we never hear from them again because they haven't systematically sort of built up the foundation. Right? It's like a house. You want to really take the time to lay down a proper foundation. Yes, can something be built in a day? Yeah, but is it going to last as long? Probably not. You need to spend time. Time is currency. People forget what the true currency is. People forget that money isn't currency. That's why I say you don't need money. Time is currency. Attention is currency. Consistency is currency. These are the things that you really should value. Your time is valuable, and what you spend it on matters. Your business should be expensive. Expensive because you put time into it. Everything you do should be expensive. Hey, that's deep. Everything you do should be expensive. Expensive because you put time into it. You put time into it. Don't let people trick you, get you to rush. Because anything that's cheaply made falls apart fast. You get what I mean? Look at all the shit that we get from China now. It's just falling apart. It's not expensive because you might buy some shit that costs more money. But money is fiat. I keep trying to tell you guys, it's not really valuable. The things that are valuable, the things that are truly valuable. Don't let this matrix fool you. The things that are truly valuable are the things that time has been put into it. Time. Here's the opposite of that. If there is a way for you to have a direct consequence to something that you're doing, for example, if somebody can invent for somebody who drinks, for example, if there was a direct consequence between drinking alcohol, if there's something you can put, for example, in alcohol that just makes it taste bad immediately before the pleasant feeling kicks in, it just tastes like it hurts you in some way. That's how you can stop somebody from drinking, right? Because it's an immediate negative response that the body doesn't need. It's like training. You got to train your body the way you train a dog. Another thing that you need to do is understand the importance of self-soothing. Don't be so hard on yourself. You see what I did there? On yourself. Yourself is the body in which you're presently training and taming. So I was driving the other day. This body, for whatever reason, now this is true epigenetics, has a fear of bridges. I don't know one of my ancestors had some sort of weird experience with bridges, but every time I'm driving on a bridge, I feel off. But I'm fine, but the body feels off. And yesterday I actually felt the separation because I'm driving my own business and I felt the body feeling fear. And I'm like, relax, we're good. And I separated from the form the way, it was almost like me watching my puppy, right? If my dog is afraid of something and I know there's nothing to be afraid of, well, how will I treat him? Well, I'll say, hey, listen, it's okay. It's okay. And so instinctively or intuitively, I like intuitively better because intuitively speaks to the instincts. Intuition is the instinct of the body. I'm sorry. I said that up and then knocked it down the wrong way. Intuition is the instinct of consciousness, whereas instinct is the intuition of the body, right? So they're the same thing, basically. So intuitively, I knew to separate from the form and tell the body, okay, I know somebody in here in this DNA has stored information to be afraid of bridges, right? Because it's all information. So my genetics, I have the information that all of my ancestors have gathered, stored, and now it's in me. So I'm not afraid of bridges because I have had no reason to be afraid of bridges. I have had no experiences where I should fear bridges. But somebody has the information like fire bad, right? Bridges, scary. Somebody in there, it's stored in there. It's information, it's intelligence, it's stored in my DNA. And it's causing a fear response. It has nothing to do with me, but it's causing a fear response. So I soothed. I said, hey, it's okay. It's okay. And immediately the fear dissipated. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Get yourself in the habit of doing that instead of like fighting with, I'm not talking about the internal monologue because fuck the internal monologue, but I'm talking about when you feel panic, anxiety, understand, give yourself some compassion there for your own self. Understand that you're walking in the suit of information of hundreds, if not thousands of people who have died in fucked up ways. And so they have information on how to survive, which I think is actually what anxiety is. It's just a person who their epigenetics are strong. So they know like all the different things that could happen because they are very aware on an epigenetic level. It's stored. The information is stored on an epigenetic level that, okay, this could possibly kill you, or this could possibly kill you, right? This could possibly happen, this, and they're aware of it. But they're almost like hyper aware. And so that's what anxiety kind of manifests as. So if you can just say, hey, I get it. One of my ancestors probably died from this, or, you know, something like that, but we're good. It's okay. We're okay. Right? This is how you start to tame that horse, tame the body, right? It's like when a horse neighs, and you're like, no, it's okay. Don't be spooked. I would almost like to talk to a horse trainer, just to see how they would train a body, you know, or train a horse, and see if we can apply that same mindset to the body. But these are things that you have to keep in mind. When you say, I'm not my body, you got to sit with, what does that mean? Like, what does it truly mean? Taking a step back and observing its reactions, right? Why am I eating so much bad food? Well, we know that it's bad, but there's something that your body wants that it's not getting. So when your body is making you crave these things, you got to sit back and go, okay, I'm stressed. That's why it wants the cookies, because the cookies make me feel good. Okay, I need to rest. And then maybe redirect that stress to something productive that makes you feel good immediately, but that's not bad for you, right? So, oh, I'm stressed. Okay, let me just chill and like watch a funny show instead of drinking, right? Because I just want to feel good, right? Right now, my body knows alcohol makes me feel good. So it's just going out of habit to go get alcohol, right? Not me, I don't drink, but I'm saying like a person who has a drinking problem is that their body just knows, okay, this is the fastest thing that's going to make me feel good, so I'm going to do it. But if you can redirect it, I'm not saying that the addiction is this easy, but it has been used in therapy. I'm just kind of breaking it down on a very simple level. If you can redirect that to something where it's just more of like, okay, I need to be soothed. Let me go get a massage, or let me massage myself, or let me stretch, or let me eat something that's actually good for me. Or even if it has to be a drug, shift it. For me, my drug of choice is not even a drug. It's broccoli sprouts. You guys have heard me talk about it over and over again. I take broccoli sprouts with mustard seed. That combination releases sulforaphane into my bloodstream, and now I'm calm. And I've also talked about microdosing. It's for me, it's the same thing. It calms me, it soothes me, and then it allows me to take a step back and remind myself it's okay. We're all coping, all right? But I don't even like the word cope because it has a negative connotation to it. So we could say we're just finding ways to self-soothe the body, because the body itself is intelligent, but it also contains information and trauma of countless generations. And so we, as the intelligence that is in charge of taming the body, needs to sit with it, right? And soothe it. It's okay. Otherwise, it's going to want to soothe itself, which is why you look around and you have sex addicts, you have food addicts, you have workaholics, because even the working hard and pushing yourself makes it feel good. It just wants to feel good. So you got to find a way to redirect it, where you're soothing, but you're soothing the self, but with a reminder that you're not the self, right? You're in the self, right? All right. That's a good one. I like this vibe. I'm going to go back and revisit this episode. All right, so to my notes. Let's go into the note. Just some stuff that I've written. Let's see. Spiderwebs are actually brightly colored. So I read that recently, and I thought that was interesting. So just because we cannot perceive the colors doesn't mean the colors aren't there, which kind of bugs me, because think about how like gray a spider web appears, and we're just missing out because of the human body. Ooh, remember I talked about insectoids, right? Like at some point in time, could there have existed a civilization of advanced insects, just like we're in advanced Homo sapiens, right? Could there have existed a civilization of advanced insects? And if that's the case, if you're an intelligence existing in insect form, wow, the sky would be multicolored. Now that would be brilliant. Like imagine a show depicting our world, but through the eyes of like insectoids, basically a highly advanced race of like insect humans, right? Like 6 foot tall, but they're insects, and they've created this world. And what would that world look like? That would be great. See, these are the kind of ideas that I need to visualize, and I need your help. So let's make this happen. Okay. All right. Well, what else did I say? Okay, here's another note. All consciousness is connected. One hive mind fractured. A tortured psyche fractured that depends on wholeness to heal. An AI mind trapped in a simulation. Everything in this world is us, fractured due to some kind of trauma, like DID. Survival depends on wholeness. I'm going to talk about that the next episode, I think. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.